Very good morning to you. Thank you so very much for joining us here on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Uyag Mofugwe, and as always, it's a delight to have you join us here on the program. Time these days just moves at the speed of light, and I'm amazed at how it is already Thursday. I don't know how amazed or otherwise Juma is, but to think that just about 24 hours ago, she and I were here hosting the same program, and I was back here just one night in between.
Yes.
Are you grateful?
I am, Jumai Manson, and I'm grateful.
Great. Let's put that on the record.
Good morning, Louis. How are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Like really, I think it's longer days.
It's longer nights
and shorter days.
Yes.
My best, by the way, because it makes it easier that before you know it.
Work hours are over.
Exactly.
And then you can rest your head for a bit.
Yes, you can. And in the US, it's like, it was 6 hours before. Now it's 7 hours.
7 hours, yes.
Yes. So
as they
God
say,
is great.
the equator has moved.
It has. God is great.
I think geographers are best at that.
Yeah.
It wasn't my course, really. But the basics are things you can't forget in a hurry. But just to say that. The word is quite complex and composite, as they say.
Yes, it is.
And just when you think you've figured it out, you realize that you're about to learn a new thing.
That is it.
Right? We still cannot explain how these things happen. My people
we
say
cannot.
Science has not been able to explain to us how water gets into the coconut.
No, science has not. And that's why I always tell people God is great. He's great. He is all supreme. Because these things, you just cannot figure it out.
Right.
Like, look at the world, for instance, how it's now shorter days, longer nights, and in various parts of the world, different time zone. All of these things, even science, I don't think they're able to figure it out.
Of course. But let's continue to appreciate the much we know or have learned, while we'll continue to make efforts to advance knowledge. And you know what they say? They say knowledge is progressive.
Power. Yes, it is.
Of course, it's power.
And it's power.
Yes. There used to be these game console back in the day. I wasn't big on it, but I would always watch as people just fiddle with the pads and stuff. And when the game starts up, like when it initializes, there's a more like, if you like, a mantra. It says, there is no knowledge that is not power.
Exactly.
So many years down the line, when I reflect on it every once in a while, I realize that it's just a way of saying that it's not just so much about the knowledge, but it's about what you do with it.
Very important.
Of course, which means if you have knowledge you're not using, it's like energy that has not been deployed, that sort of thing. And incidentally, we live in a country where you have tens of millions of people who are so knowledgeable about so many things. But then the opportunities are limited for them to be able to access, also add their, if you like, 2 cents
very true
to development. But there's something that has been very concerning the last few days. Not so much talk about Lassa fever, but the NCDC, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, is now saying that the numbers don't look good in terms of the number of people that we've lost.
2,000.
And 5 states, yes.
That's a lot.
Off the top of my head, I'm trying to paint a scenario where you have 2,000 people in a community, and all of a sudden they are all wiped out.
Oh God!
On account of, if you like, call it a pandemic.
Yes, it is.
So it doesn't tell a good story.
No, it doesn't.
So this is even more important for those of us who take these things for granted. All right, to know that Lassa fever is real. Beyond the rats that we always make, if you like, caricature of, the important thing is the science behind it and how it affects us across the world. At least in Nigeria, basically. Look at the states, 5 of them. I see my state there, incidentally. Edo is there. Bauchi is there. Incidentally, the man who has done the most groundbreaking work, you can fact check me, Professor Agbolao, is an Edo man, right? One time, the Vice Chancellor of Ambrose Ali University, the state-owned university. I've listened to him carefully as a young boy growing up on television. I read his articles and his interviews on newspaper pages where he talks about how very tricky, that's the best word I can find since I'm not a medical doctor, this very issue can be about Lassa fever. But we find consolation, so to speak, in knowing that we have the NCDC that has been, for whatever it's worth, within their, available resources to do as much work as they are doing today, because I feel very strongly in my guts that the situation could have been far worse.
Yes, very true. And the thing is, we thank God for some precautionary measures that has been put in place, the awareness that every individuals in the health sector and our own, our own little mode of trying to prevent this particular disease, which is the Lassa fever. But it's just unfortunate that more needs to be done, because 2,000 is a lot when it comes to the numbers of individuals who have died from this, like you said, let's call it the pandemic, it's a Lassa fever. But I think a lot more needs to be done. A lot of awareness needs to be done. We cannot do enough awareness. We need to do much more. Individuals need to understand that, hey, this particular disease is here and it's deadly. We don't paint it in a subtle way. It's deadly. It kills. A little bit of the urine from the rat that has the excreta from the rat that has numerous breasts and all of that. It can kill with a twinkle of an eye, and it's so bad that it's a very slow death. The eyes becomes reddish, blood starts gushing out from the mouth. All of these things that we can actually prevent so it won't get to that particular stage. So it's very important that an awareness needs to be done. It's as deadly as, when we talk about malaria, when we talk about typhoid, when we talk about cancer, when we talk about HIV and AIDS, Lassa fever should be on that burner also, because it's deadly and it can kill. And as far as I know, once it gets to the chronic stage, there's no cure. The person will, But the thing is, I think a lot needs to be done in that area. I think we need to put in more work. We need to create more awareness. People need to come out and speak up. But at the same time, you need to do the needful when it comes to, like I mentioned, precautionary measures. Your food needs to be covered in tight knit containers, where individuals in the market have a role to play in this. When you go to the markets in Kaduna, I'm sure also in Abuja here, where you go to, you see how open.
Most of our open markets are like that across this country.
See, it's not packaged anymore. I think NAFDAC has a role to play in this. You have to go into our markets, because we cannot be losing individuals when you and I can make a difference. Human beings can make a difference. Like I said, we keep leaving things in the hands of government. God forbid, if anything happens, you cannot hold one person in government and count and says this person has died. You have to play your role, and we have to go into the marketplaces first, because there are rats there. Are you kidding me? So you have to ensure that the gari which you sell, the amala, all of these things that you measure in the mudu and all of that is well covered when you are going home. You have to seal it tightly, ensure, not because really your conscience, you have to be empathetic. People are dying, and it could be one lackadaisical move or one ignorance that can cause the death of. And these are family members. So it's very important that we understand what this is all about. It's very important that we take precautionary measures, not just, of course, the home front. Also, I've mentioned you cover your food, and now you know how it is growing up. When it's time to fast, the sahur and all of that, you're too tired to actually cover your food. You might the leftover, you might just leave it open, but you have to take the pain. Cover leftovers. Ensure when you are frying stuff, don't leave the kitchen and say you're going to pick up something. Ensure you cover it very well, and then go get whatever you want. Don't leave anything to chance. The Holy Book says wisdom is profitable to direct. So it's very important that you take it up. Do your part. That's the thing. And that's why God is so gracious and kind. Do your own little effort, and He sees it. For people that will say, oh, God is in control. Yes, He's in control, I believe. But what effort have you made as an individual? On your own level. It doesn't matter how big or how small. This is a very deadly issue, and people should take it very seriously. Lassa fever is real.
It is.
And it is here, and it has killed 2,000 records so far. That is the one that we know of. Then unaccounted records that has not been placed in front of us.
Who knows?
Who knows? So please, it's very serious.
Interestingly, Juma, with all of these brilliant points you've highlighted, the Vaccine Alliance, what we call Gavi, more like the clearinghouse of vaccines, if you like, is now saying that Lassa fever is going undiagnosed.
Oh my goodness.
Across West Africa and even the continent by and large. And now the implication of that principally is that it creates the possibility that it can become a global health concern if we don't put in all the resources, if we don't get to be proactive enough at this point in time. So these are issues that are very important. I will make the effort this week to get a doctor here to help us understand what the everyday citizen needs to know about Lassa fever. Because sometimes when you talk about these things, especially when you hear that it's hemorrhagic and blah, blah, blah,
yes, it
the
is.
first impression is, I mean, there's a lot of grammar in this. Right? But we need to break it down in such a way that
simplest form.
people understand that
Yes.
the least you can do is to approach it with a life and death mentality.
Very important.
Yes, and that's one of the points you made when you said, look, you must go to the pain to ensure that you cover leftovers. You must protect your food, ensure that food is not exposed, especially for homes where you know that you're exposed to rats for whatever reason. It is what it is. There are areas where it's common to find rats round the clock. Don't be so concerned about the species of the rat as you should be bothered and worried about exposing your food.
Very important.
You know, this idea of, we just finished cooking beans, it's still very hot and smoky.
Let's leave it open because the heat is much now.
You can slip off.
Are you kidding me?
You can get a quick call and leave the house. Other things can take your attention.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be one step ahead of this reality that we're dealing with. It's not a time to apportion blame.
No, it's not.
It's a season where we have to take responsibility individually and collectively.
And you know what? Just to put that out there, I know it's the heat period, and people say if you do not open up your food, it can easily get bad because the heat. When you come, especially when you make vegetables, when you make all sorts and all of that. But you can actually get a strainer for in the pigeon parlor it's called a sieve. Okay, sieve or a strainer. Once your strainers with very little holes in them, it could be the metal, it could be there's iron one, I think, and there's the one made out of plastic. You can actually get that, and then instead of leaving your food opened and exposed and you want it to cool off, you can just cover it up with that. Just cover it up so that nothing goes in there. It's very important. And breaking it down to the simplest form is very important. Various languages, in Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, it could be just people to understand in the simplest forms to know, because one life is very important. You cannot bring that life back. So you shouldn't toil with it. You shouldn't at all. So it's very important that we go all out when it comes to creating this awareness. Very important.
No better time for advocacy than now. That's the point being made. Well, we're taking a break, but just to let you know that we'll be talking politics as always on the program this morning, especially with the new move that has now been made by the legislature regarding certain practices by politicians. We'll let you in on those as well because of the program. And then, of course, we'll also talk about the state of the economy and how the everyday Nigerian is managing through this very trying period in our country. Let's take a quick break. All of that and more shortly. Please stay with us. So very much for staying with us. The question of at what point the price of fuel will plummet a little for there to be a reflection of such across the prices of essential goods is still very much big. This morning, between yesterday about dinner time and this morning, I did a little survey and I realized that nothing really has changed from the standpoint of transportation. In particular, before now it was food that people were very concerned about, and in Nigeria, the staple food, which is rice, for example, is always the benchmark. So at some point, Juma will tell you a bag of rice is 95,000. Later, she will tell you is 105,000. But here is one of the concerns that citizens have always had. When you go to restaurants, whether the very, if you like, eyebrow ones, or you go to the other ones, the food vendors, the regular ones we call mama put, for instance, they are quick to talk to you about how that the price of rice in the market has shot up or skyrocketed. Same thing for food ingredients and what have you. Then we understand that the price of a bag of rice the last few months has dropped significantly, very significantly.
Yes, it has.
Yes, a lot of drop in that regard. Has it reflected in the portion of rice you get when you order a pack of lunch, for example? Of course, the answer is a big no.
No.
Now, this is not just to talk about the price of fuel or whatever it is. It is to now say that even though we do not have, as it were, standard regulatory procedure or system in place, how is it that we are quick to jack up prices at the snap of fingers, but even when things start looking up or things start looking better, we are not also bringing that energy, so to speak, in terms of doing a downward review of prices?
And you know, like I always say, you know, I've always mentioned on the program that because we do not have like a monitoring team that goes about to implement this particular change, we know this administration, when it comes to food, it's not as expensive as it used to be. For someone, an individual told me a bag of corn at one point was about 100,000, but now it has really dropped, and all of that. Food has really calm down.
Right.
But when you go to eateries or you go to all of these outlets to eat, it's still the same portion you get, as little as if nothing has changed and nothing has happened. And because there's no monitoring team that goes around to checkmate all of these things, and that is why people just feel they can do whatever they want. Now, at the point where fuel was 700, 800, transportation remained the same.
Right.
Talk more of food that you and we have to eat every single day. Now, it just remains the same. And you ask individuals who are in this business of transportation or food vendor, and they tell you, it's our gain. It's part of the game. We have to continue. After all, we bought it like that, and if we feel if you don't want to go, it's because someone else will patronize us. And that's the thing. No one checkmates. No one ensures, hey, this, and there is it's a pattern. It has always been like this. Whether there's a hike or whether there's a decrease, whatever it is, once there's a hike, everything shoots up.
Right.
But once there's a decrease, it remains the same, as expensive as it was before. And it's just unfortunate that greed comes into play.
Right.
There is no empathy, no sympathy. There was a time, okay, let me refer back. When that incident happened in that Kefi Road, the one that the CNG truck exploded.
The explosion, right.
You would have expected that most Nigerians that were there, that were hawking, I'm not saying give for free. I'm not saying give for free, no. You would expect that they were out of sympathy, okay, just take it at the price I bought. Oh my goodness, just to help out.
Right.
But people as low as sachet water, you'll be shocked how many people were selling sachet water because people wanted, that's the time to make money but that is not how it works. It's just that I think we have lost that sense of empathy, that sense of, that sense of belonging or whatever. Everyone is just every man for himself, and it shouldn't be like that. I do not know why. Is it because people say the country is hard and then I have to do what it takes to survive? But that is not the means of survival. It's just unfortunate that this is what it is. And for me, Jumai Rekia Manson, I'm just saying, greed comes into play. It's just greed, no empathy, no sympathy. It's just every man for himself.
Right.
And if in order for change to come, for as much change that has been put in the works, you must have a monitoring body to implement and say, rice is now 50,000 naira. It should reflect on the portion of food that you sell. Because really, it's not all about the high and the mighty, because they do not patronize food vendors and all of that. We, the masses, we patronize these individuals. Let it reflect so that we will have a say and understand that change has really come. Because if we do not see these small changes in the daily things that we buy, all the little benefits, there's no change, no impact. That's why we keep saying that the government is bad, because we as individuals, we've not felt the impact, even when there are numbers reflecting, even when there are so many things reflecting. But we as individuals, the common man, has not seen the change because there is no implementation saying this is it or your restaurant will be closed down. We need to start that way so that change we can actually feel and then accept that change, that good change that has come. If not, we'll only hear numbers, we'll only say, okay, it has, but in our daily lives.
How does it translate?
Exactly, that's
to a real life experience
exactly.
for citizens.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's transition at this point, everyone. Let's bring you Heart to Heart Inspirational with Ramsey Enoch Agbo.
Well, my name is Ramsey Enoch, and it's good to have you join us today on Heart to Heart Inspirationals. And let's get you inspired because we value you. You are very important. You mean so much to this generation. Do you know why? Because if anything happens to you on this journey of destiny, it means something has gone wrong with a generation because you are a potential destiny helper. But then, what step are you taking? All right? Where are you? What are you doing? My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Small steps still move forward. We love big breakthrough. A lot of people want to be big men overnight. They just wake up overnight and they want to be big men, not knowing what it takes to be a big man, to be a big woman. Breakthroughs are things that we are supposed to enjoy, but then, does it just fall from heaven? No. One thing we need to understand is that there are things we need to do to really be successful in life. How much work are you putting into yourself? We need to know that life has so much for us. The truth is this: we love big breakthrough, yeah, that's true, but we underestimate small obedience. Small obedience. And that's the reason you see a lot of people make resolutions and they don't keep to it. You see a lot of people do their to-do list for the day and they are not keeping it. Discipline and obedience to small things. You know, little foxes that destroy the vine. You may think those things are small, they don't matter. But then it makes you accelerate. It makes you move forward in life. We celebrate overnight success, but ignore daily discipline. How many people are disciplined today? Even CEOs, they are not disciplined today. A lot of people are not disciplined today. Business owners are not disciplined today. A lot of people have eaten their capitals. Yes, a lot of people. I know of people who ate their capitals. Some even went into debt. These are people that were making millions. I know. I'm not talking abstract. These are people that I know. Where are they today? What happened? Discipline. I've even walked to someone before to say, hey, come on. Do you know what? I know it's your business. I know it's your company. I know you are in charge. But then, instead of just putting your hand into the business money and taking out of it every day, place yourself on salary. Be a salary earner. Let the business pay you. Oversee it. Let it pay you. You don't just wake up without discipline. Oh, you have a need. Bam. Accountant. Yes, sign this check. No. It's not done. Discipline is very important if you want to be successful in life, if you want to make progress in life. Discipline is very important, not just discipline alone. Obedience and discipline go hand in hand, all right? You need to be obedient, all right, and you need to be disciplined. Yet, I want to let you know that nothing great happens suddenly. It happens consistently. Consistency is key. Whatever you're doing. Okay, let me give you an instance. Why do you think anywhere you go to look for a job, whatever you want to do, people look for someone who have experience? Because the more consistent you are on a particular thing, the more professional you become. But a lot of people, because of the issue of diversification, multiple source of income and all of that, these theories have made a lot of people not to concentrate on a particular thing, not to be consistent in doing one thing and become a professional in it. A lot of people are slaving today because they were not consistent in what they were doing. A lot of people are not employable today because of inconsistency, disobedience, and indiscipline. Three major issues: indiscipline, disobedience, and inconsistency. These are thieves of time. Progress, like they said, is not always loud. It's not loud. Sometimes it looks like getting up again. Sometimes it looks like staying committed, all right, when nobody is clapping. A lot of people. That's why, initially I talked about on Heart to Heart, before I've talked about social media. Everybody want to be clapped for these days. Everybody is going on social media to live a fake life because they want to be clapped for. Oh, of what profit is it? It's deception. You're deceiving yourself. I only pity people who copy this online so-called designed people who design themselves to be what they are not. People must not clap for you all the time. Don't wait for the clapping. Don't wait for people to clap for you. Sometimes when walking towards your successful days may not require people clapping for you, or sometimes growth feels boring because when it gets, people don't like work. That's the truth. A lot of people don't like work. So sometimes when you're walking, it looks boring. When you are striving to be successful in life, sometimes it looks boring because it's just like you're driving on the road and it's only you on that road. You're going, no car is coming from behind, no one is overtaking you. You're just going, only you. Sometimes it looks boring. But boring is where mastery is built. Do not despise small beginnings. Small steps compounds. Small habits accumulate, and of course, small disciplines create massive outcome. Just be consistent in it. Every expert you see today was once a beginner who refused to stop because so many things happen to stop them. When you're starting a business from the scratch, it is very difficult. If you are not consistent, disciplined, and obedient, you run away. Yes, of course. That period, that growing, that incubation period, if you're not careful, you run away. A lot of people have run away from businesses like that. Then when other people start doing it, enduring that boring moment, that lonely moment, then when they come out successful, they say, well, why did I even leave that business? Because you were not consistent, disciplined, and of course obedient to the rules of the game. Success have a rule. It has a rule. Yes, you need to abide by the rules of the game before you become successful. Breakthrough don't just happen overnight. That kind of breakthrough that you're looking for doesn't last. Yes, a dribbling tap can fill a bucket over time. Don't you know? Provided there is consistency, it's dripping. All right, let me give an instance. For instance, you get to the hospital and they give someone drip, all right? There is drip on a patient in the hospital. You see the way it drops, pim, pim, pim. It will appear as if it's never going to get finished. But just give it a time. That drip will finish. Everything will finish into the patient's body. But it's dripping. It takes patience, all right? Not because the drops are big, but because they are consistent. It's dropping. Because of the consistency. Whatever you're doing, please ensure to be consistent if you really want to make it, if you really want to succeed. Focus on the progress, not the perfection. Celebrate effort, not just outcomes. Show up when motivation is low. You might not see. Let me tell you something. A lot of people don't celebrate upcomings. That period where you are struggling to be successful, when you're struggling to grow, a lot of people just look at the ignore. Some will not even take you serious. And that's why you need to be careful the kind of relationship you keep. I pity for people who push aside people that were with them when they were in their incubation period, when they were trying to become successful in life, the people that encourage them. Somebody may not even give you all the money, but the encouragement coming is enough. Consistency turns into ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Yes, by the time you're consistent, it turns ordinary action into extraordinary results. All right, keep going. Small steps taken daily will carry you further than big intentions that was never acted upon. A lot of people have big dreams, but they never acted on it. Where are they today? They are nowhere to be found. Well, you need to dream big and you need to act on the big dream, no matter how small, on a daily basis. Be consistent, be obedient, and of course, what else? Be faithful to whatever it is you're doing. Many thanks. I'll come on your way again. My name is Ramsey Enoch. Bye-bye for now.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Global Morning on Global Television. And of course, hope you were well inspired with the heart-to-heart segment with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. That inspirational. And at about this time is the newspaper review segment. And I'm going to be starting with the first paper of the day, and it's This Day newspaper. Above the nameplate of Newsday newspaper, it says, China, Russia abstain as UN Security Council demands Iran halt attack on Gulf state. And of course, we have 4 riders there. It says 32 nations agree historic 400 million barrels reserves release. Cities stand chart evacuate Dubai offices. HSBC closes quarter branches. And it says Iran cannot participate in World Cup, minister says. ADC calls on FG to cap petrol prices. And below the nameplate of This Day newspaper, it says, Tinubu, it says, I'm a die-hard Democrat. True Democrats must submit to the rule of law. And you can find that read on page 7 on This Day. And below it says, despite fresh moves to resolve crisis, Wike's PDP fraction fixes presidential primary May 25th. And the writer says BOT rejects appeal court's sack of Ibadan convention, postpones meeting. The second writer says open to reconciling with other fractions. And the Star story on This Day says as 3 more PDP senators join APC party, almost has 2/3 majority in National Assembly. And the writer says ruling party can practically alter constitution alone with 84 senators, 231 House seats. PDP caucus shrinks to 14, and that's on page 8. And basically that is all. Those are all the major headlines on This Day newspaper. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with the issues making round. Next is the Daily Sun.
All right. I just sent the Daily Sun. The headline here says PDP leaders set up reconciliation panel hopeful of a rebound. That's quite optimism there. With a writer that says party strong to negotiate from position of strength. That's Wike speaking. NNPC in talks with oil producers as Dangote refinery shakes up fuel markets. And the writer tells us Iran wants oil could hit $200 as hostilities escalate. Excuse me. As reps amend newly signed Electoral Act, dual party membership to attract 2-year jail term. Offenders may also pay 10 million naira fine or both, so you don't want to be caught. Insecurity, Senate raises the alarm over renewed attacks in Borno after invasion of Kukawa military base. 14 killed in fresh attacks in Katsina. UNILAG defies ASU strike, insists exams will continue. Silent on payments of amputated salaries to lecturers. A new term, amputated salaries.
Amputated?
Yes, they were not paid in full, so they said their salaries were amputated.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Rejection of envoy. What federal government should do? A diplomatic source says India didn't reject envoy, only notified Nigeria of its policy. Well, this is not the time to politic around what it says.
Exactly.
But you can read those details on page 28. Southeast needs strategic engagement to get additional states reps. Deputy Speaker, apparently, that's Right Honorable Benjamin Okezie Kalude talking. Those are your headlines from the Daily Sun today. Up next is the Guardian newspaper.
All right, now the Guardian newspaper, below the nameplate, it says here, Minister assures control amid loss of 65 soldiers in jihadist raids, and that's on page 3 on the Guardian newspaper. On page 3 again, it says Iran vows no liter of oil will cross Hormuz, advises countries to prepare for $200 per barrel. That's not good. And then on page 3 again, it says fresh strike looms over delay in implementation of FG ASU renegotiated pact. That's on page 6. And the Star story reads, caregivers groan as dialysis hits 80,000 naira per session, transplant 30 million naira. And that's on page 6. And on page 4, it says, Oyedele decries borrowing to fund budget, gets Senate's ministerial nod. Like I said, that's on page 4. And on page 30, it says, bandits reportedly kill 14, injure others in Katsina's twin attack. Very sad story there. Reps query NSDC over sugar imports, demand oil asset details from NNPCL. And that's on page 30. And below that, it says 2027, Afenifere faults removal of certificate clause as reps amend Electoral Act. And that read you will find on page 6. And on page 15 on the Guardian, it says, interest in bonds improves as February auction records 92% bid to cover ratio. And below that is on page 4, it says lawmakers threaten action as foreign airlines owe FAN 18.98 billion naira. Now that's a lot. And on page 7, it reads, ADC fractions in Cross River or your battle over state structure control. And basically, those are all the major headlines on the Guardian newspaper. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making round. And Uyi will take us through the Nigerian Tribune.
Thank you, Jumai. Our top left defense minister meets service chiefs, says we are on top of rising insecurity. Sounds reassuring, but we hope that's the experience on the ground. Reps task NSA to coordinate joint security operation in Ekiti. Nigeria on path of 7% growth as reforms begin to stabilize economy, credited to Wale Edu, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Professor Shehu Kolade writes for Tribune, begins Wheels of Reason column today. Such a landmark really for the Nigerian Tribune. PDP crisis, that's your kicker, will negotiate from position of strength. Wike, with 2 riders accompanying that headline. Wabara-led BOT rejects appeal court ruling, opens window for reconciliation. Another appeal court gives factions room for settlement. I mean, there's no price too high for peace, though. Reps prescribe 10 million naira fine, 2-year jail term for dual party membership. Fenifere fault removal of forged certificate provision from new Electoral Act. What's the motive, what's the spirit behind that sort of legislative move? Find details and context on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune today. Iran wants oil may hit $200 per barrel as it attacks merchant ships. IEA members to release 400 million barrels from reserves to ease oil market shock. Oil producers should invest in Nigeria to diversify supply in times of crisis. That's according to the federal government. And lastly, one that has to do with health here, it reads, scientists discover pill for sleep apnea. That's a report, a medical report, actually on page 15. So read it up because it has to do with your health. There's really no sound of flourishing health without a good sleep.
Yes, very correctly.
All right. Well, those are your headlines. Be sure you read up details for yourself, everyone, as we move to our next paper now, and that's the Vanguard newspaper.
All right, now the Vanguard newspaper, above the nameplate, it says FG spending on domestic debt service falls 38% to $405.3 million. And that read you will find on page 20. And on page 6 of the Vanguard, it says Nigerian, 121 others injured as Iran hits UAE. Okay. And on page 26, it says PDP crisis, elders heed a court advice to reconcile feuding camps. Okay. And on page 9, it says FG unveils plan to connect all Nigerian schools to internet. Okay, how possible that is and how true it is, we'll have to find out.
Right.
All right, now below the nameplate, it says Middle East war, despite Dangote's price cut, petrol is still 1,300 naira. And the writer says depot price ranges between 1,119 naira and 1,200 naira per liter. And it says transporters, commuters, others lament high fuel prices. The next writer says we need time to achieve compliance along value chain. And that's from the Petron. And it says crude oil rises marginally to $92 per barrel. Strides of Hormuz closure. IEA approves release of 400 million barrels of oil by 32 nations. And you have to see page 5 to get well abreast with those particular stories. And below that, on page 9, it says Reps amended Electoral Act, proposed 10 million naira fine, 2-year jail term for dual party membership. All right, I think that's a step in the right direction. It's very important that we understand all of that. Stay in one party.
Minimize these anti-party moves.
Exactly, it's very important. Stay in one place.
Right.
Hello. And of course, on page 8, it says it's all about insecurity, and it says Defense Minister summons service chiefs over rising attacks. And basically, those are all the major headlines. And of course, my favorite is the Mr. and Mrs. But go ahead and get yourself a copy of the Vanguard newspaper and well abreast with the major issues making round. Next is the Punch.
All right, so the Punch, incidentally, we're starting with the headline, top right corner, has a picture of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Oluyede. It says, Defense Minister orders operational overhaul after base attacks. 2027 JITES, PDP loses 107 NAS members to defections. That's some real depletion there. And then top left corner, Punch Managing Director, who doubles as the Editor-in-Chief, joins World Editors Forum Board. Congratulations to Mr. Joseph. Adjusting the nameplates, a few court fallouts. Makinde, Bala splits over Wike peace deal. Of course, we told you politics is always and ever about interest. Monopoly fears rise as Dangote controls 14.4 trillion naira petrol markets. Then we have 3 riders with it. Labour, economists, energy experts flag monopoly risks in post-import ban markets. Organized private sector warns against hasty price regulation, demands NNPC refineries overhaul. NMDPRA rejects return to fuel imports. Stakeholders insist on PMS price regulation. On page 2, so you find those details. Nigeria spent $5.2 billion servicing external debt in 2025. You can read it up on page 22. Electoral Act, Reps OK jail for dual party membership. We have 3 more headlines to go here, but bottom left reads, Joshua's uncle confirms boxer's move to Dubai. Fear in Ondo communities as kidnappers tighten grip on Akure North. That story has its details on page 3 and has a picture of the governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa. Osun Governor Adeleke Oyebamiji dream victory as campaign begins on page 30 of the Punch newspaper today. Please be sure to read up details for yourself for context and perspective. We'll turn to our last paper now, and that is the Nation newspaper.
All right, now the Nation newspaper, above the nameplate, it says House of Rep criminalizes membership of 2 parties. And that you will find on page 10. And still on page 2 here, it says APC senators now 84. 3 senators, 5 reps dump PDP LP. And on page 7, it says Middle East crisis, federal government rules out petrol price control. That's on page 7. And on page 5, it says Assembly proposes relocation of Makoko's residence to Agboa. And that's on page 5. And below the nameplate, it says here, Senate clears Boyedele as minister. And then on page 3, it says, IG asks court to dismiss El-Rufai's 1 billion naira suit. And that's on page 4. And the Star story reads, Wike-backed PDP fraction lists terms for reconciliation. And Ryder says camp fixes presidential primary for May 23rd. Makinde Turaki group raises peace panel. And below that, it says terrorist attack, military on top of game, says General Musa. Of course, that's the Minister of Defense. And it says here, why Gulf oil gas producers should invest in Nigeria by Tugger. And below all of that, it says VCs face probe over alleged misuse of TET fund allocation. And on page 2, and please, that is the last paper on the newspaper review segment. And a reminder that Global Television has no input whatsoever, any editorial judgment on these papers. We read them just as they are. And at this point, up next is Social Buzz with Ogochukwu Mobono. Stay tuned.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast, real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
At Wichtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Wichtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Wichtech Cables, quality cables, better than the best.
Our language, our vibrant culture and colorful tradition, our industrious and hospitable people. This is Nigeria, a nation that prides itself in abundant human and natural resources. From east to west, north to south, we sparkle, we shine, we have a common bond. Fellow Nigerians, let's do away with ethnic, religious and regional sentiments that divide us as a people. God has blessed us and empowered us to find strength in diversity. Let's make our faith and way of worship our source of unity as we build a nation that stays united. Nigeria, together today, together always. This is a public announcement brought to you by Global Television.
When social media speaks, we'll listen and we'll bring you the extra. It's your one-stop show for trends, truths, and the tea everyone's sipping. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get the extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk. Only on Global Television.
Good morning, Nigerians and the rest of the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues making rounds on social media. And today we have this one from the president. He said that the economy is getting better and governors no longer borrow to pay salaries in their different states. Well, this President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said that Nigeria has overcome economic challenges under his administration, stressing that state governors no longer run to banks for loans to pay salaries. The president made the remarks while hosting religious and traditional leaders for an interfaith breaking of the fast at the presidential villa on Monday in Abuja. In a statement released, presidential spokesperson Bayo Onanuga said President Tinubu promised to continue making the most of the opportunity given to him to lead the country by sustaining the trajectory of economic growth and prosperity. The president speaking, he said, "I am just grateful, one person among millions, that I have been given the opportunity to serve. And all I can do is promise that I will continue to be faithful in discharging my duties. I can report that economy has turned the corner. It is getting better. Pensioners are getting their relief gradually. We have saved Nigeria from bankruptcy. It was very daunting and challenging when we took over, but today I can say with pride and joy that we have survived. No governor in this country is running around the bank to borrow money to pay the salaries of their workers," the president said. He also said that he's assuring Nigerians that the nation would not allow agents of instability to undermine its peace, unity, and sovereignty, while acknowledging the critical roles religious and traditional leaders play in promoting stability and moral guidance in communities. He also said, "Yes, we are challenged. The terrorists are very desperate now because they are getting barraged and defeated. They leave trails of blood in their wake. But I assure you of one thing, Nigeria will never, never surrender. We are not discouraged. We are going to win and win well." These are the words of the president on Monday, when he gathered the other members to make sure that they break their fast in the presidential villa. And, when I got to hear this word from the president, it gave me like a sense of relief. It's more like, when you pour cold water in a body that is already hot, it's kind of chilling. But again, what are people saying on the street? What are the words there on the street? People are not comfortable with just statements. They've seen the statement, they've heard them over and over again. Do you think that they are cool with it? If you say governors no longer borrow, to pay workers salaries in different states, what about the common man on the streets? Do they even see money to buy food? What is their challenges when it comes to transportation? Right now, we're seeing hike in fuel prices. Everywhere is jam-packed. We've seen fuel go up from 830 naira down to up to 1,300 and 1,600, as some filling station would sell. So what exactly is the fate of the common man? We have insecurity one side, and right now the common man can't even feed. These are challenges that people want the president to address, and not say, the governors no longer borrow money to pay salaries. It's a good one. I applaud the president for that. But what is the fate of the common man? What are you doing for the common man? A lot of things have happened. We've seen people being kidnapped. We've seen core members kidnapped, and nobody has come out to say anything about that. That's insecurity ravaging Nigerians. So what exactly is the president going to do about that? These are many things we need to discuss here in Nigeria. All right, let's take some comments from social media as regards this, because I don't think I'm the only one who is thinking this way. I applaud the president for his speech, but then again, let's even go down to the grassroots. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. Leave the people in leadership, leave the governors, leave the senators, leave the House of Rep members. Come down to the people, because these are the people who put you there and said, you know what, we want you to be our leader, so do it for us. Come change what others could not change in different years they have served. So let's take some comments from social media as regards this topic. The first comment is coming from K Solo Hits, and K Solo says, economy is getting better, yet the hunger and poverty is on the increase. How do you measure your growth level when it's reflecting on the lives of your citizens? How do you measure your growth level? Because the president said, we're doing well, the economy is getting better. But then, the citizens are crying. They are all begging. What can we eat? Where is food? Where can we get our next meal? That's the life of every citizen right now in Nigeria. A lot of citizens in Nigeria, the average citizen is just thinking of how to go out, get daily meal, and come back. It's more like a lot of people are living from hand to mouth. Second comment coming from DJ G, and DJ says, does he even have any idea what's going on with the average African citizen every day? Okay, he said, Nigerian citizen, I beg your pardon. All right, now this is the part where I come in, because sometimes I always say that I think the president is not well fed with enough information of what's going on. I always call the grassroots level, like I always call the citizen the grassroots level. I said the president is not well fed. What is the Minister of Information doing? What are his media aides doing? Give him the right information. Don't just go there and tell him, everything is going better. No, it is not getting better in Nigeria. We are not happy. The citizens are not happy, to be very honest. Let me speak. I'm using my voice. I'm using this platform. The people are not happy. I go out every day on the street and I get to hear things on the street. People are always lamenting of, the hike in prices of food, and also now fuel, which is in turn going to affect everything. Fuel increase affects everything in Nigeria. People that already have goods stored in their shops will start selling things very expensive, even when they did not buy it at that price. That's just the way it is in Nigeria. So what is the fate of the common man? All right, the last but not the least comments is coming from the Common Man 247. And Common Man 247 says, is this how to measure economic growth? Okay, sir. Governors you share money to are supposed to be productive in their various states and remitting to the federal government instead. So they're supposed to be productive in their various states, then remit to the federal government. Is that how it's supposed to be? These are the questions on the street. Well, these are many more we'll talk about. Drop your comments. Tell us what you think about this topic. Drop your thoughts. If you are angry about it, drop it. Let us use our voice in one unity and make sure that it gets to the president. Let the president know that in as much as we applaud what he's doing, making sure that the governors all have enough money and not borrow to pay salaries, let us also know that the average man on the streets is still depending on 70,000 naira, which is the minimum wage. And 70,000 naira with the fuel hike, they cannot get themselves any house in the city center. They have to live abroad. They have to live, you know, in the outskirts of town. And when you have to pay live out in the outskirts of town, you pay transport. And when you have to pay transport, you are paying nothing less than 3,000 to 4,000 naira to go to work and come back. Then we've not talking about feeding. We've not talking about people who have families, who have children to take care of. We're not talking about other things you have to do, basic amenities like, you know, taking care of yourself in the hospitals. We can't even afford hospital bills at this time. We've seen people run away from hospital bills. We've seen husbands run away from their wife who gave birth to children or to twin or to a child in the hospital because they cannot afford hospital bills. What exactly is the president putting in place to this? All right, this is where we draw the curtains today for Social Buzz here on Global Morning. I'll be leaving you in the hands of Uyi and Jumai as they bring us into the discussion section of Global Morning. So stay with us. I am Agot Kumob. Now, once again, good morning, Nigeria, and good morning, the rest of the world. Bye for now.
When social media speaks, we'll listen and we'll bring you the extra. It's your one-stop show for trends, truth, and the tea everyone sips. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get the extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk. Only on Global Television.
All right, let's turn to politics now, especially from the standpoint of, legislative framework. Last year, we saw so much of pillar value around the Electoral Act amendment as was being proposed. Of course, up until that time, what we had was the 2022 edition of that piece of legislation. But then there was need to now incorporate new realities into it because times have changed quite appreciably. Today, what we have is the 2026 edition of the Electoral Act as amended. However, even though the president has signed it into law, there are people who still believe that, look, there's so much to be done. Of course, we're seeing the electronic transfer or transmission of result issues, all of those arguments. But the one that happened yesterday was when federal lawmakers now also, as it were, made provisions to say, look, if Jumai joins parties A and B as against being a member of either party A or party B, she would have committed an offense for which she will either be fined 10 million naira, sent to jail for 2 years, or she will get both. That's a combination of 10 million naira fine and 2 years in jail. As a matter of fact, add to that, according to this new provision, she will be denied, or her membership of any of those two parties will be void, which means she can't be a member of any political party. However, a legislator from Jigawa State said, no, that will also contravene Section 40 of the Constitution, which guarantees freedom of association, which means Jumai can decide who she wants to associate with. You can't make that call for her. So, of course, you know how it works in law. If you have a piece of legislation that has provisions running contrary to any provision in the ground law, which is the Constitution, the Constitution by all means would naturally take precedence. So, Jumai, what this means is that, basically, just so our viewers understand, we're trying to find a situation where people will not be able to, if you like,
dilly-dally.
Yes, this chance for sharp practices in the way we politics, especially within the political parties themselves. For example,
yes,
legislators have argued yesterday on the floor of the House of Representatives that, look, when people become members of two or more parties, it causes problems
Yes, it
during primaries, all right? Because at that point there's conflict. We're putting up our primaries to decide who will become a governorship candidate in the state, for example, or a presidential flag bearer. Because this particular individual is a member of 2 or more parties,
Yes.
it becomes a problem.
Yes.
And then by the time we say, let's look at the records, let's clean up our records, let's straighten up our data, it also becomes a problem. So in order to be home and dry, as they say, to avoid stories that touch, all right, let's ensure that you can't be a member of more than one political party at a time. So we don't keep hearing these anti-party politics that many politicians have been accused of.
Yes, I think this is long overdue. I think we've said it before here on the program that you cannot be a member. I'm just giving insight. I don't know why you had to use me as that example. Are you kidding me?
I don't know. Maybe my hunch says to me that you may venture into politics someday.
Really?
I mean, just to be able to up your capacity for making a difference in society.
Very funny, Ree. But at the same time, I think this is long overdue.
Right.
I think you should be stable in one political party, giving your support, giving your all. You shouldn't be one leg in, one leg out, one leg in, one unstable. That's instability. So it's very instability, pardon me. And the thing is, it's long overdue.
Right.
In order for you to let us understand where you are. I think people do this sort of things, anti-party membership, because of what it brings. Okay, after all, I'm here and I'm here. So if this party wins, I'm with them. If this party wins, I'm with them. Or if this party loses, oh fine, at least this party has won. I think it's long overdue. I think it's been a long time coming.
Right.
It should be. You shouldn't be anti-partying up about. Stay in one political party, make a difference there, and see whether that particular party will win. So for some politicians who do this sort of thing, of course, the FCT minister has been accused of anti-party membership, him being a card-carrying member, like he said, for the People's Democratic Party, and also showing alliance when it comes to the All Progressive Congress and all of that. He's one person that people, but he says he just shows his support. It's not like he's doing any anti-party issues and all of that. But I think this is long overdue.
Right.
The fine of 10 million naira, perfect, and of course being jailed for 2 years. It will serve as a decorum for others to understand that even as a politician, you should have integrity. You should have worth. You should understand that honesty is key. Because when you hear politicians, you hear all politicians. With all due respect to politicians, I'm not, okay, this is just me, but the mindset of some individuals, they say all politicians cannot be trusted. Politicians are liars. It's when they want something, they'll go all about it. But once they get into that position, all what they've said, they've kicked it to the curbs. So I think this is a way of bringing back integrity to that particular title called I am a politician. That honesty of remaining in a party and doing your best to ensure that the party works. It's not when there is, like you see what's happening with PDP. This is defection here and there. People are here and they're defecting because they feel PDP is nothing. I'm not a PDP member. I'm not an APC member. I'm just a Nigerian who wants the best. I just want the best for Nigeria. So the thing is, it doesn't show loyalty to that party. So it's very, be there. It doesn't matter. There are good and there are bad times. Good times when it was good, we were all happy. Bad times, let's see how you can make it work. But for you to be one leg here, one leg in, one leg out, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't speak well of your integrity. It doesn't speak well of what you say with your mouth by making an impact, giving your all. You know, when have you been to a rally or when they're having their manifesto? Have you seen what they do? All the hey, the hi, no, please be there. And I think this is long overdue. That is just me saying. I think this should have been a long time coming to serve as a deterrent to others to understand that being in multiple parties doesn't make sense. It doesn't make you an honest individual. It doesn't give you that self-worth. It doesn't give you that integrity. It's very important. Remain in your party and make it work.
We do hope. There are a couple of things I want to highlight. I mean, just to add to these brilliant points that you have raised, right? We do hope these legislators and their colleagues, that's affairs within the political space, will lead by example. Because important. Now, these lawmakers have strongly backed this amendment. In fact, they have said that multiple political party membership is dishonest.
Yes, it is.
And it's a form of political misrepresentation.
Very true.
Which is a no-brainer.
Yes.
Totally correct. But you see, are they not the ones who also perpetrate this evil?
No, I was going to mention
All right. So it is not about talking plenty. It's about taking action. It's about leading by example.
Implementation.
Right. So let's see you lead by that example. Let's see that all 360 members of the House of Representatives and the 109 of them, even though we know one passed lately.
Yeah.
I mean,
so rest in peace.
Amen. So let's hope they lead from the front so that Nigerians will follow, because that has always been the problem. People have agreed across border, look, Nigeria doesn't have a problem of resources. We don't have a problem of intellect or intelligence.
Exactly.
We don't have a problem of integrity, of creativity or innovation. We just have an issue of leadership, especially at that level where you would have thought that leadership will become the pathfinder, as it were. I mean, forward-thinking leadership. We don't have that. Then add to that the fact that you can't have this kind of conversation, I guarantee you, without having that sense of patriotism. You've got to love your country. This is not just something you do because you want to be politically correct, because you want to worm yourself into the heart of the masses, especially the voting public.
Or be politically involved.
Right, because of 2027.
Exactly.
It's something you do in such a way that even if you were not in parliament, even if you were not in mainstream politics, you know this is the common sense thing. This is what nature demands of you, especially from a standpoint of patriotism, because you want to be patriotic.
Very important.
That's the point. Another point is our in-house analyst here, talking about Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, has always said that in Nigeria, as we know it today, we don't have political parties. What we have is just a bunch of, he calls them platforms. He has said that repeatedly.
Yes,
and he creates context of that conversation every time he makes that reference. Because, I mean, come to look at this, for example. How do we explain where PDP is today? If we really have a political party in Nigeria, or if we have political parties, how do we explain? As a matter of fact, even for the ruling APC, I've spoken to if you like, high-ranking members of the party, those who are very high up within the APC. They say, look, the reason the APC can be proud of where it is today as a party, this kind of formidable, if you like, system that it has created, is on account of the leadership that has been provided consistently by the president himself over time. In fact, some of them have expressed on different levels the fear, the concern that if you were to remove the Tinubu factor, you might not have APC as we know it today. What does that say to you? It says to you that somebody has, over time, with so much of consistency, provided leadership, provided systems, provided structures. The question now is, who is replicating the same attributes across the other political parties? You can criticize President Bola Tinubu before he became president and now that he's president all day, all night. But the question is, are other political parties understudying whatever he has done in the APC for whatever it's worth?
Exactly.
Because as it stands today, I keep talking about the PDP because at the point the PDP had been the ruling party.
Oh, yes.
At least up until 2015.
Of course.
The PDP at the point had also been the frontline opposition party.
Very true.
So with the Wike factor in the PDP and with the rest of them factor, where does it leave the PDP? Just before this appeal court ruling came up, we saw one of its leaders talking about Kashim Olawepo, saying that, look, we can reconcile ourselves. And he started doing what today we know as shuttle diplomacy, to say, look, Juma and Uyi, we know they are not on good terms. You know, they don't see eye to eye. They are beefing themselves. But what I'll do is I'll go talk to Juma. I'll come update to Uyi. I'll talk to Uyi. I'll go update Juma. He's been doing that back and forth between or amongst the conflicting factions. And just by Tuesday, word came through that those efforts were beginning to pay off or yield fruits, as they say. But the question is, given where we are today, where it appears the Wike faction is heading in one direction, and the Bala Mohammed stroke the Makinde faction heading in a different direction, can we guarantee that the PDP can get its act together? People say, okay, well, let's forget about the PDP. There's some consolation prize. We have the ADC. The ADC can give the APC
a run for his money.
But the question is, has the ADC shown capacity? Because again, the argument that the bulk of the people that make up the ADC are just those who don't like the president, are just those who are not happy with ADC. So they are coming together from a place of
forming an alliance
and pepper the ruling party.
Exactly.
Will it see the light of day is it sustainable? So when you look at all of these, you are asking yourself, do we really have political parties? So for many of these politicians, they can stand on the floor of the Senate or the House of Reps all day. I mean, most Nigerians don't care. I don't really.
I don't either.
But you see, what matters ultimately is what people can now see and feel and experience at the end of the day. Because for the average politician today, what they see these parties as would just be special purpose vehicle. So the idea is, I have an ambition to become a senator in 2027. Which of these vehicles do I jump on?
Exactly.
That's what they see. They don't see it as a political party. On the final note, for example, how many of these parties can boast that their members pay dues on a consistent, loyal basis? I know of a filmmaker in this country, one of the foremost, a veteran in Hollywood, Lancelot Oduwa Emaswe, an award-winning guy. He told me on live television some years ago, he said, look, he said, I vote in America. He said, I pay my dues. I'm a member of the Democratic Party. He's saying this with pride on a Nigerian television. How many politicians can, if we line up 1,000 politicians, Joma, you and I will put them here on this program, how many of them out of 1,000 can say it? I mean, I'm talking about the very rudimentary aspect of it, the basics, which is to pay your dues. How do you say you're a member of a political party, you don't pay dues? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, have the leaders of these parties across board shown leadership to that point?
Exactly.
Where you see members accusing their leaders of selling slots, selling candidacy to highest bidder. Somebody comes from the US because he brings a lot of money, you give him the ticket. As against another person who has been loyal to the party, has shown, proven that he has the track record to lead, all right, has the capacity, has the competence. People love him, has grassroots support. You won't give it to him because he doesn't have deep pockets.
Exactly.
The other guy who has come from the diaspora has got all the money.
Yes, he does.
Nobody is going to ask how he got there. But we're saying all of this to say that until we get it right within political parties, at best is a night of a million laughs.
Very. I like the way you ended it. A night of a. It's a thousand, but you have to add a million.
Can we not be innovative?
We can be, but I think our orientation needs to change first. We have to understand that it's not all about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's not.
Right.
It's about the people of Nigeria and, of course, Nigeria itself. And I think it's from that hierarchy that it needs to change. From these political parties and members of political parties, their mindset needs to change.
Right.
Like you mentioned ADC. Most of these governors, ministers who are defecting to the ADC is just because they do not like, our president. They feel his whatever he's doing doesn't make sense.
Right.
Or talking about have you seen how someone crumbles and talks about the renewed hope agenda? It's not all about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's about you as a political party and showing patriotism, which is very important. And see how in your own sphere, how you can actually correct things that you feel are not right or not going in the right direction. I think mindset needs to change first. I understand that it's not all about bringing someone down or, like you said, peppering the person by defecting to. No, it has nothing to do with that. The only way you can make a point is when you make a difference as a Nigerian and the patriotism in which you have in you to make Nigeria a great country. So I think our mindset needs to change, the orientation of let's see how we can take him out of power, and let's see all those conniving and all those it's more to that.
You're talking, I'm just reflecting. They
it's more
have
to that.
Do a lot of work.
They have to do a lot. It's not all about the heavyweights that are there. It's not all about that. You can have heavyweights and then there is nothing you're bringing to the table.
How can your heavyweight translate into electoral victory?
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. That electoral victory is what says it all. And what you bring. It's not all about saying that, 2020, God is the only one that knows what's going to happen in 2027. That he's the only one that knows. He's the all supreme. And the thing is, we have to understand that it is Nigeria. And we, Nigerians, that is the most important. All of these things are just, by the way, they're just secondary. The primary aim is Nigeria, how to make Nigeria great again. How to bring in so much that individuals who are in the diaspora can come back and say, oh my goodness, thank God I am back home. Let's make a difference. Let's make Nigeria better again. It's not all about that. electoral win at the end of it all is what will tell the story. All of these things for me were just like you said, do we really have a political party in Nigeria? I put 3 question marks to it. It doesn't matter the heavyweights that are there. A lot of work needs to be done, and it has to start with our orientation first, knowing that patriotism is key, is very important, and the way forward for the people of Nigeria. It's very important.
It is. It is. You know, when you talk about, I mean, you made several references to the word reorientation. Right?
It's very important, our mindset.
Look at how it works today in Nigeria. I mean, this is common knowledge, it's out in the public, we see it play itself out time and again. I'll just paint a quick scenario. Ordinarily in a party, whatever the name of the party may be, you have the executive members of that party. Of course, the party at the state level is led by the chairman of that party. But what we have in Nigeria is, they tell you the governor is the leader of the party in the state. And the reason is simple. The governor is the emperor. That's the reality of how our system is structured. The governor is the guy who has access to all the resources the party needs, from top to bottom, or bottom to top. The governor, therefore, becomes the leader of the party. So you are asking yourself, if we have a governor in the state who has been elected by the people, and then we have a party chairman, who should be supreme between these two persons as far as the affairs of the party and the state are concerned? So you are not asking, can we really say we're pursuing or driving democracy when you have such an arrangement, such a system, such an architecture? Because I remember clearly in 2020, at the very 11th hour, so to speak, when the former governor of Edo State, Obaseki, was moving from the APC to the PDP, he went to the state secretariat of the PDP, and right there, in the presence of all the leaders of the party in the state, including the regional, if you like, the South-South leader of the party at that point in time, he said, look, because he's a very meticulous person by his own nature. He says, I read the constitution. These were his words. I read the constitution of this party overnight. And he tells me that on account of defecting from the APC to the PDP, I am now the leader of this party in the States. And they all know that. The video is on YouTube. They all know, including the current chairman of the party. They all know that straight. So I'm asking myself, if you structure your guidelines, your constitution.
Very important.
All right, to say that even though Juma is the state chairman of our party, we understand she is. However, now that he is defected from party A to our party, he becomes the leader of the party. First of all, by that action, whether you realize it or not,
or accept it or not,
you have undermined the leadership of your party at the state level. That's what it means. Because at the end of the day, the governor is going to ride roughshod over everybody, including the executive members of the party, starting with the chairman himself. So that's one of the challenges we have. Why? We have monetized the entire political system.
Process.
So money is the first thing to look at. So you say you want to go campaign, for example. Are you going to buy drinks for the boys? Are you going to buy them ECAU? Are you going to buy them pepper fish or pomo? Are you bringing cash? What are you bringing? You just come and you say, well, you know, I did it before in 1991. I can do it again. I have track record. I've proven it in both the public sector and the private sector. People know those things, all right, but they are asking, how does it translate to
money?
So how do we now demonetize our political system?
It's going to take a while.
It's going to be a long journey.
A very long journey, that's the truth. And then you ask yourself another major question. Why are these governors, these politicians defecting in the first place? Because they have something to gain.
Well, they say it's because they like what President Tinubu is doing with the APC and the renewable agenda. And they want to be connected to the center. I think more than 80% of the governors say they want to be connected to
the center.
They want to be centralized.
Well, anyway, we'll take their word for it with a pinch of salt, of course. But the truth is, you ask yourself, if there is nothing to gain, if I will not gain anything as an individual, once I am trying to attain something, I will not go there.
All right.
Most of these governors they want a second term in office. And that is why they think in their own mind. Like I said, we do not know who will emerge winner in various states, and only God knows. But at the same time, if it's not favorable to you or I will not defect. Are you kidding me? And if it's not glaring that if I do not defect to this party, I would not get my second tenure. I would definitely defect. Right. But at the same time, that's why I said we need a reorientation to understand that even if I do not emerge winner. I would take it, understand it, and move on.
In the spirit of sportsmanship.
In the spirit of sportsmanship. But how many governors? The only person that has stated an example is the former President Goodluck Jonathan, who took it with the spirit of sportsmanship and said, hey, the numbers are glaring. Okay, fine. President
Muhammadu Buhari, blessed memory,
is present. So that was an exemplary style.
Just to add to that before that, Juma, he would always say before the election that my ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian.
Now that is patriotism.
And he lived it out.
He lived, and I will say it again, that is patriotism into play. How many of these political individuals or these politicians have that? Some will rather go out, they will rather remove a thorn of flesh to get to that particular seat, because I will never accept defeat. That's what goes into play. So a lot needs to be done, orientation, a lot needs to be done about understanding that it's not about you. It's not about you, no. It has nothing to do with you. You are a servant of the people and you must represent. And of course, the party where you are, make a difference. Be valuable to that party. And that's why I'm so happy with, like I said, it's long overdue, but at the same time, for these policies that are out, is it going to be implemented? Is it going to be followed through the books? That's another question mark again. For as much as it's a fantastic idea, brilliant idea, I support it 100%. But at the same time, implementation.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's not just a challenge. You say it lightly, it's a very big challenge. A lot of fantastic ideas when it comes to policies, when it comes to decision making. How effective are they? Look at the barest minimum when it comes to low cost of food. How do you see when you go to eateries and roadside foods, do you see how the portions are? So we have a lot to do. Like I said, reorientation, very important. And you understanding that Nigeria is the only country that we have. And we must make the best out of it. That is why it doesn't matter, in the spirit of sportsmanship, be patriotic. Very important. I think when we have that and we understand that it's not about you and it's not just because you're in that position you can do and undo. You have individuals whom you represent, you must make an impact. It will go a long way.
Well, what more can we say? Politics, they say, it's a game of numbers. Politics, they also say, is a murky waters. But whatever it is, it must be such that every political opportunity, access, resource, or platform that we get or eventually attain, it must be such that it serves the good of the larger majority. Otherwise, all we're just doing is primitive accumulation, which, of course, at this point in time, can even set Nigeria back worse than where we are coming from. We're taking a quick break now. When we return, we'll start looking at issues around the economy, especially how the everyday citizen is faring in this season. Up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
for the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
Glad to have you with us on the weather forecast. For Thursday, the northern states will continue to experience plenty of sunshine along with very high temperatures. Residents are advised to drink lots of water, avoid prolonged exposure in sunlight, and wear light breathable clothing to stay comfortable in the heat. There are chances of morning thunderstorms in parts of Cross River and Akwa Ibom states. But as the day progresses, a sharp surge in moisture influx into the country would trigger some rainfall activities in parts of the north-central states, talking about the Federal Capital Territory, Kogi, Niger, Kwara, Nasarawa, and parts of Plateau states. But there are better chances of these thunderstorms along the stretch of the coast, the southwest, and in parts of Imo, Anambra, Enugu, and Abia states. Stay with us for temperature forecast. I am Theodora Itzum. Thank you for watching.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
All right, we're going to be looking at, economic realities in the course of this conversation, especially given this rise, or if you like, increase in the price of petrol, which is, of course, premium motor spirit as it's called by those in the industry. Much as we're not seeing, not particularly much of queues this time, availability is not the real concern. It is the pricing. Just yesterday, somebody mentioned jokingly that, Juma, look, we may be bothered about the increase in the price of petrol, but you also need to be grateful that it's available, that there had been times, several times, even in recent history, where finding a product was a problem.
Yes.
Pricing was a problem, but now you can find a product, it's just pricing, that's the issue. And then just while we're having that conversation, we ran into a filling station where you had somebody selling black market, as you know it, directly opposite the filling station. There was no queue at the filling station. So both of us were wondering, this filling station is selling for less than 8,300, about 250, 8,250. But the black market lady just across, directly opposite the filling station, is selling for 8,500. And the guy told me, said, look, he said, this lady selling this black market product is still here because she has people patronizing her. Otherwise, she won't be here. So I couldn't, and I still can't wrap my head around how. Here's a filling station selling for 8,250. A lady directly opposite, just across, is selling for 8,500. But isn't that what happens when you have this kind of chaos in the market?
But let me explain that to you. I will tell you for free that if that lady that is there selling at 1,500, her 5 or 10 liters is precisely 10 liter. Compared to the filling station who sells at that price,
yes.
And then the pump has air. Exactly. She's giving you that the black market individual.
It is garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage. It's value for money. But you see the filling station, you cannot be sure. I will tell you that for free because I have had that experience before. When you're going to buy 10 liters of fuel, you get exactly 10 liters. But when you buy in the filling station, you get maybe 7 or 6 liters. I'm surprised.
Feels like what my friend would call being between the rock and the hard place.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if there's actually a difference between both, but again, like I mentioned, when you have a chaotic market, so to say, I think that's what happens. Everybody's suddenly now falling in love with Dangote Refinery. And I'm wondering, where is that love coming from? Where has that love been the whole time? When there were regulatory challenges, when there was a bit of politics around the refinery. Today, Iran has happened to the world, so to speak.
Yes.
And suddenly, Dangote becomes the new bride. While we know marriage is possible to this new bride, we also hope the union will last long enough. Because whether you like it or not, nothing stays the same. By the time all of this clears, the dust settles, I hope we still realize that Dangote is as valuable in the future as it is today. Because some of the things that give us problems, especially regarding things of public interest, it's not even what's happening far away in Iran. It is the fact that we are not proactive, we are not futuristic, we do not project, we do not plan, and we are not even concerned. Otherwise, some of these things won't just swoop on us and have this magnitude of impact that we're seeing today.
You know what, for me, I think Dangote has actually proven that he's patriotic when it comes to this issue of petrol, or will I say premium motor spirits in Nigeria. And for me, I'm just saying as Jumai Manson, Dangote has come and he has come to stay. Really, whether you accept it or not, he has come and he has come to stay. With all of these that is happening, and yet he can still reduce. MRS is still cheaper when it comes to other
which has a direct partnership with Dangote Refinery.
When you're coming from my house and you have to drive, and you see the queue there. People will prefer to go and buy. 100 naira is a big deal for individuals.
Because ultimately, it's not just the 100 naira you're looking at the volume.
Exactly, and you're getting value for money. Other filling stations that will sell higher or sometimes higher, because I've not seen the difference when it comes. It's higher. Yet you do not get value for money. I was buying fuel yesterday, and the pump was just, there was just something about the pump. So it's just unfortunate that, for me, it's just me saying Dangote has come to stay. He has shown patriotism when it comes to this issue and the empathy he has for Nigerians and, of course, Nigeria. People might beg to differ. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
We still keep hearing that there's a chance the refineries will work. The Nigerian refineries will work very soon. And you're wondering, on what basis are we expressing that sort of optimism? Are we really putting in the work for refineries? We understand billions of dollars have been spent and we're not seeing results. Well, we understand we're now already joined by our guest to help us understand what exactly is going on at this point in time from purely an economic standpoint. Issa Aliyu Shatta is an economic analyst. He joins us virtually from Lagos this morning. Issa, I would like to appreciate you for taking out time of your busy schedule to have this conversation with Global Television.
Thank you for always having me.
Let's do something from the angle of microeconomics this morning. First of all, we are all aware of what has happened to the pump price of petrol at this point in time. Many Nigerians believe that Dangote refinery is the messiah in a manner of speaking. But let's talk about the impact it has on everyday citizens and what exactly or if you like, has led to this particular situation.
Well, I was listening into your conversation with Jumoy, and the conversation you guys are having is not far from the reality on ground. If you look at what has been happening, most especially with the global crisis that has actually, sort of dovetailed into the Nigerian economy, you realize that there's a whole lot of hardship. The hardships were there, actually, ab initio, but Nigerians just shoulder it up. And Nigerians, we have this resilience to weather the storm. Nigerians shouldered it, looked for alternative routes or means of, blending into their, what I would call daily necessities, right? And people were able to seek for alternative in terms of transportation, in terms of how they balance, going to work and also working from home, right? Right now, even with that blend of balance, the hardship is 3-4 times, higher, because one, queues are returned temporarily. People still have to go and queue. Those who cannot queue will have to go and buy the fuel at a premium, which is exactly what you're talking about. So liking that woman that sells the black market across the fuel station to another fuel station that just puts their price at a premium. I mean, people who do not want to waste their time and who can afford it will definitely just drive in and, consume that fuel and move, right? But how many of the percentage of Nigerians fall within that bucket? So there's a whole lot that is currently, going on. One, there's man-hour lost, right? So there is, when you talk about time wasted, right? People go to queue before they go to office, eventually they go to office. Even mentally, they are not productive, because when you are thinking about how you are going to buy the next fuel, right? You can't be productive at work. So there's a whole lot that is happening, and it's just not your cost of transportation. One, I can guarantee you that school fees is also going to increase if this does not abate soon. People who kids use the school bus to go to school, they are going to increase that amount as well, or that price. Now, this will add more to their spend, out of pocket, spend, right? Food items will definitely also skyrocket as we speak. Most especially now that we are even approaching some festive period, right? All of those will accumulate and have a ripple effect on every Nigerian on the street. Now, we are talking about insecurity. We have not finished grappling with all of those realities. Then now we have the crisis of, fuel increase, and it's been moving intermittently. But for the past 5-6 days, or for the past 1 week, we have seen that increase rising, like a hockey stick. And we pray, from what a lot of people have been projecting, that it doesn't hit 2,000 naira. That's our prayer. But somehow, I read it in the news that Dangote refinery had reduced the price. Then even NNPC also reduced the price to, I think, about 85,000 naira. But everything is still selling for above 1,000 naira. And if it's selling for above 1,000 naira compared to how much it was selling for before, you can see that there's a massive jump from what Nigerians used to buy fuel and what it is today.
Good morning, Mr. Issa Aliyu Shatta. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Issa. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, now, why do many citizens feel trapped when it comes to continuous hike in fuel? You know, when you hear there's hike in fuel price, citizens are trapped. Why is that so? That anxiety, that fear?
Yeah, because there's no alternative. I mean, that's the direct response. Because if you have direct alternative, let's say we have a good rail system that is working, right? We have, so the government had promised to introduce CNG buses. Yes, those CNG buses have been rolled out. However, how many of those CNG buses do we have in all the states, apart from the major cities in Nigeria? And even the CNG buses that are available in all the cities, are they enough? Are they adequate to service, you know, or to bridge the gap for that transportation deficit that we are having? And if you look at it, most of an average Nigerian. So if you put the graph there, I can guarantee you that more than 60 to 70% of Nigerians, you know, have their own personal vehicle that they use to go to wherever they want to go to, right? So we don't have that adequate public transport system that has different layers. So apart from, you know, the buses, you know, the modern buses that you can have, you have the rail, the train, you know, as an alternative. Then in the coastal area, where we also have water, do we have alternative where people can use the ferry, you know, as a means of alternative to, you know, commute? So we don't have alternative. That's why Nigerians feel trapped. So every now and then, when this situation arises, everybody is trapped because you are thinking about the next thing to do. I can guarantee you that because we've not had this for a very long time, a lot of people were relaxed because all you just need to do is to drive through any fuel station and, you know, take gas and you move ahead. But when you wake up in the morning and you just hear that there's been an increase in price, it will shock. Some people don't even buy, majority of Nigerians cannot afford to buy food tank, as at the time we're even buying it a bit cheaper. So when you talk about now, people are just basically moving as the situation, you know, goes. So they just go probably buy like 4 liters or 8 liters that can take them to their destination. And if they're able to get some little cash, they can put that in again. Majority of Nigerians also have turned to, you know, public transporters, because when they close from work, they have to pick, you know, passengers on the street so they can afford to buy fuel. They are not doing it just because they want to, you know, buy food or put food on their tables, right, at home. They just want to ensure that they are liquid enough to be able to afford to buy the next fuel that will take them home. So they're just living as the day goes. And that's the reason why everybody is living in that perpetual surprise. So we're taken by surprise with the global economic shock that is happening. That's just the explanation to it. You don't have adequate alternatives, you know, or options to use to commute.
Buses, you are an economist expert. Now, do you think it will actually stand the test of time when it comes to this issue, or it is the way out when it comes to high cost of fuel? We should concentrate more on CNG vehicles instead of, you know, when it comes to other means of transportation. And do you think it will really stand the test of time in Nigeria here?
Yeah, so when you are talking about CNG, how many of those CNG stations do you have? Have we built enough infrastructure to be able to cater for it? Like I told you, how many CNG stations do you have in other states, apart from maybe Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Enugu, right? Some major cities, basically. How many of those CNG stations do you have in other states? Because these are the people who have the larger population of the people who are actually bearing that cost, right? Then secondly, the alternative is just to stay put on the policy that has been passed by the government. Yes, I know that the bill has been passed, the PID bill has been passed and all of that. So what we need to do is to ensure that we adequately, you know, bring in frameworks that can immediately make the system work better. How many of the type of Dangotes do we need to have so that we also don't run into the trap of monopoly, right? Then, and that's also going to be detrimental to your economy when you have the major part of your economy being controlled by a single individual and not government. There's a danger in it. You know, it's not economically viable. Even if it seems healthy today, trust me, it is not economically viable. So you definitely need that competition so that you can at least drive that price adequately down. Second aspect is, everybody have been saying it, and we just need to take the bull by the horn. Do we really want to privatize all the other refineries that we have? Are those refineries not obsolete? Are they adequate enough to be invented and begin to service the goods? Or we sell them off and hand them over to private individuals who can turn things around almost instantaneously, because those private individuals will be profit driven, and so they will set targets when they want the refinery to be fully operational. What we have today has been garbage in, garbage out. We've heard about all of the trillions of naira, or you want to convert it, billions of dollars that has been spent on turnaround maintenance or turnaround maintenances over a period of time. Nothing happened there. So everything we've been seeing is just a horse. We just need that deliberate. We need to be intentional. We need that deliberate policies to be implemented, to be executed, so that we can have options. So everything still goes around having options, alternatives to what you currently have today. Then also have other options in the current alternative that you have, which means let us have more Dangotes in the system. So if you have more Dangotes in the system, that will help you, provided that they are not buying crude outside the country. If they are buying crude outside the country and you have this kind of global economic crisis happening, definitely you are also going to feel that brunt by the time they are buying or they are exporting crude. They are importing crude into the country. So is there a way we can increase our production capacity and ensure that we have adequate reserve that can take care of our own refinery internally? This is actually supposed to be a gain for us in Nigeria, because you can imagine the kind of demand that Dangote refinery will be getting today with this current crisis that is happening. So just not servicing Nigeria, but also, and from what I've heard, the NNPC can only provide Dangote with, I think, about 350,000 barrels of crude, as opposed to the 650,000 capacity that they require on a daily basis. That alone is a concern, and that's the reason, because one will be asking, if you have a refinery in your country, if you have the natural resources, the crude in your country, why should you be paying higher? Now, the hardcore reality is that we are not able to service Dangote the full capacity of what they require to be able to be operational. And at the same time, yes, Dangote is buying in naira, but Dangote is also buying at the global price. So these are the factors that are actually making these prices to skyrocket.
Move things up a notch higher, Issa. How do we begin to understand the nexus that exists between the economic realities we're having now on account of the increase in fuel price and what is happening in Iran? Because there's been a barrage of analysis as to saying that, look, the war, of course, courtesy of Israel and the US in Iran, is causing so much of global instability in the oil industry. And as such, Nigeria is not insulated from it. That's why we are where we are today. Help us find the economic sense in that conversation.
Yeah, see, for those who don't know, right, in 1973, when we had the Suez Canal War, right, where it's also the same, almost the same thing, where you have the crisis with US and Israel, with Egypt and Israel, yes, which is what we call the Suez Canal War in 1973. That was the time, for the very first time, that the Arab world used oil as a weapon of war. There was a distortion around that time. There was scarcity around that time because the Arab nation came together and used the oil as a means of war, a weapon. So that was when the US started planning for reserve. That was when other countries started looking for alternatives. So even though they planned around that time, if you fast forward to what we are seeing today, you can see that what we are having today is still not far-fetched from what happened in 1973. So what it means is that we are not adequately learning from history. Because if you learn from history, we will understand that whether we have reserve or not, as long as that daily flow doesn't come from that tiny spot that Iran, borders Iran to every other Gulf country that oil flows from, as long as there's no movement in that particular, river, or rather that channel, right, to ferry oil out of the Arab community, you definitely have this global crisis. And that's the reason why the US is telling, OPEC to increase the capacity or even double their capacity. And of course, that is going to take a long period of time. And even if they do, where will they use, how will they pass? Because the route they are going to go to take right now is far more a higher distance than the route they would have taken today. So definitely it's going to have a lot of impact in the global economy. Why? Because most economy actually depends on oil. So industries, you have even data centers who are serviced, by this oil. Now, I think it was in Switzerland or one of these countries, right, Sweden or so, where they are already telling their citizens to get some cash in hand so that they're able to stock for food, just in case the digital, financial ecosystem breaks down or goes down as a result of this global oil crisis. So there's a ripple effect that is going to happen as a result of this crisis. A lot of manufacturers are going to suffer in the far Asia countries. In China specifically, the Chinese world, the Chinese people will definitely feel the brunt of this. In America, again, they are going to feel it. You're already seeing queue gathering in those countries, right? So there's a lot of confusion, chaos that is going to happen globally. That's why you see that the global power are trying to mobilize to say they want to mobilize their warship close to that particular arena and ensure that there's a free flow of oil moving. But the question is, will Iran fold its hand with the kind of the barrage of attacks that we have been seeing and allow this to happen? So I think the earlier the better they come to a peace negotiating table and reach a compromise, the better it will be for the global economy. Because as it is right now, when you are fighting a war where the people you are fighting don't really care, right? It is a serious problem. So I think the world leaders or United Nations need to immediately call for a ceasefire so that they can return back to that negotiating table. The only challenge is that Iran said that they are not, comfortable or they are not confident enough, to go through the route of negotiation table, given the fact that they've tried that and twice they've been betrayed, right? All those conditions that they were trying to agree on were not met and they were immediately attacked. So I pray that, we can immediately halt this crisis because it does no good for anyone. It's affecting people directly and it's also affecting the global economy indirectly. So it is something that, they have to put a stop to ensure that we don't go the route of the 1973 Suez Canal War again.
Iran, I read today on the papers during our newspaper review segments, Iran has come out to say they're going to sell fuel at $200 per barrel to countries who actually patronize them. Now, a Nigerian will say, what's our business with all of that? How does it affect us as a country, affect our own economy? What is the relationship there for someone who is wondering?
Yeah, I still can't fathom it. But like I told you, I gave you the statistics that look at the crude that Dangote needs the daily capacity that Dangote needs. Yet, we have crude in Nigeria, but we are unable to meet that daily demand. This is an immediate demand internally that will benefit the internal economy, right? So we are looking at how this should have affected Nigeria in all fronts positively, both internally and externally. Internally means we have adequate supply to service the existing refinery. Don't forget that it's not just only Dangote refinery. We still have some couple of little refineries, spread across Nigeria that we also service, we give these services to, right? So if we're able to at least supply these refineries internally, we will not feel the brunt of the increase in price of oil, from Iran. Now, how do we now benefit externally? Now, if Iran is selling for 200 and we can also supply our, customers or our clients outside Nigeria, it means that we have more money coming in as opposed to the benchmark based on 2026 budget that National Assembly passed and was assented by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at $65 per barrel. Now we are having way above that. So which means the borrowing that we are having for our budget, we are supposed to cut it down drastically. Because if you have benchmarked our budget to $65 per barrel, and today we are currently doing 100 and above, which is almost 100% increase in the projected barrel that we have in our budget. We are supposed to utilize this window of opportunity to supply more of the oil to those who, because right now what we are currently seeing is that there's scarcity. And when there is scarcity, there's definitely going to be increase in price. When there's increase in price and you have the resources or you have the the oil to supply, you supply it and gain a lot of economy gain. So what that means is that our forex we need to go higher. Even our reserve that CBN had projected that for almost about 5 or 10 years now, we've never had this kind of increase. We should be having that also increasing higher. So there's a lot of positive that we are supposed to get from this, right? If we are able to put all of these items that I've discussed about on, the economic table, then we are supposed to reap massively from what is currently happening, unfortunately.
And of course, you're in the best position to tell us what coping strategies should family adopt in this time that we find ourselves in this high cost of fuel, because it affects everyone in one way or the other. So can you just intimate us on how they can, how they can cope in this time?
You see, coping mechanism is a chicken and egg approach, really. But I will just tell you, and that's the reason why they said people should save. Again, a lot of people will say, am I earning enough for me to be able to save? Right? Because this is when, those savings that you have, or those little investments that you have, or what I call those side hustles that you are doing, come to support this period. Because as price of items increases, definitely purchasing power will reduce, right? And when purchasing power reduces, only those who can afford it will go for it. Then there is a cosmic cycle of the market people complaining that there's no patronage. And of course, they too are getting it at a higher amount because of the cost of transportation, obviously, which is going to increase over a period of time, right? And what this literally means is that a lot of family will need to adjust at this point, sadly. Some might not be taking the 3 square meal every day. Some people might be just doing 101. Some people might just be doing, unfortunately. But the advantage we have today, provided that everybody is in the Ramadan mood and of course in the Lent mood, the consumption rate will be a bit lesser than when we are not in this period. So I would say that there's a divine intervention already that, has already been on the table. So another coping mechanism is there's a whole lot of things that people do at this point in time, especially those who are working in the same organization or they work in the same community. They gather funds together to buy fuel in someone's vehicle to ferry them through to their office. Some offices are magnanimous enough to, prepare a schedule and say that, you can work hybrid now. You work 2 days in the office or 3 days in the office just for this period of time to also help to cushion the effect. And you can work your 3 hours remotely. Now, other people will say, yes, I'm working from home. Do I have electricity? That's another angle again we are going to. Do I have electricity to power my devices when I'm working from home? So what again will happen? You have to also go and depend on the same fuel you are trying to run away from to power your generator set, for you to be able to have, adequate electricity supply at home. So if you look at it, there's a whole lot that is definitely affecting people, within the bottom of the pyramid. So but the coping mechanisms are just the little items that I've spoken to right now. And I hope that Nigerians will cultivate that habit of savings, right, in the future and prepare for shock. But another thing is, in this period, we definitely have government policies that come to cushion the effect. Just within this short period, I know that we have the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, conditional cash transfers are currently going on. So this is a time to immediately start those disbursements so that households don't suffer much more of the impact, given the percentage of Nigerians that are below the poverty line.
Quickly now before we wrap this up. Now, what long-term solutions can be implemented when it comes to to balance fuel pricing and, of course, citizens' welfare?
Yeah, long-term solution is this. Yes, I know when I talk about subsidy, people would say, oh, we are not going back to that nightmarish. There's nothing wrong with subsidy. I mean, you can subsidize transportation, you can subsidize those essential items, you can subsidize electricity, right? But a lot of people say, no, we are not having that. So now that we have a new tax law and everybody is almost compliant, paying tax, I feel that there also need to be a benefit that comes with me paying tax. So which means if I'm paying tax and I'm adhering, to my tax payment, I'm supposed to have those basic necessities that I benefit from. Do I have some percentage, decrease, or do I have some discount when I go to attend my public health services, for instance? These are things that adequately can, solve some of these problems. At what rate should I go to the market to get these items? Is government doing anything to cushion that effect? The same thing with transportation as well. Then also providing long-term solution in terms of transportation network in Nigeria. I mean, I mentioned it during my conversation that we need to have options and alternatives. We need to have options, for instance, for if you have adequate rail system, not just intra-state, for instance, but interstates, and it is adequately taken care of. We need to begin to think about those long-term effects. And those will even be cheaper, safer, for a lot of Nigerians, long time, right? Then we also need to look at how we can support, the citizens as to the palliative measures that are on ground. I talked about, these conditional cash transfers, and it must not necessarily be cash. Sometimes it could be food items that are distributed. All of these things will help to reduce the suffering, right? And at the same time, if I have the government card, because I am paying my tax, I'm paying my household tax, anybody who picks that card and wants to go and access public transport will have it at a discount. All of this will encourage more Nigerians to move into the tax net, and at the same time, allow for long-term planning, for when we have shocks like these. We already have those policies in place that are taking care of people anyways. But if we have more shocks that are coming in, the government can always support. Then we also have private institutions who want to do their CSRs, corporate, social corporate, responsibilities. We can have a pool of that and they adequately fund it, and we can also channel it through a distribution mechanism that is data-proof and data-verified. These are all of the things I feel we can actually inject into the system to make us work out the long-term plan when we have global shocks, because they will come. Trust me, we had COVID, it was a global shock. So it could be something else. So we need to, be able to plan ahead so that when it happens, we can immediately address those situations.
A great place to leave it. Issa Aliyu Shaza, economic analyst. So we appreciate you for these very amazing thoughts that you have shared with us on the program this morning. Here's wishing you the best of the day ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, great. Well, we'll turn our attention now away to issues of health. This time it's about the kidney. Yes, of course, the time that was in this country not too long ago when kidney transplants became a big conversation even on the streets. Today is special in that regard. We're taking a break now. When we return, we'll talk to you about exactly what that means. Up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe. All right, let's wrap up the show this morning, everyone, on notes of a very important issue that has to do with health. Today happens to be World Kidney Day. Now, for perspective, World Kidney Day is observed every second Thursday in March every other year. Happens to be today, the 12th of March 2026. Let's begin with the theme for this year. It says kidney health for all, caring for people, protecting the planet. And you're wondering what the nexus is between caring for people and protecting the planet. The whole idea is to draw world's attention, yes, the attention of the whole world to the challenge that kidney poses for people. All right. Most of us have had very dear ones, relatives, friends, all right, in some cases neighbors and colleagues who have had complications in this regard. And then you begin to hear about things like dialysis, which can be very, not just complex process, but also very expensive.
Yes.
We have seen cases where some persons were placed on dialysis twice a week. Now, the idea is not just to go look at the doctor twice a week. It is to go carry out a procedure for which you have to pay every time you make that visit. Many families today, as we speak on this program, Juma, are groaning under the financial weight, the economic pressure that comes with having to undergo dialysis, because that's basically one of the ways to keep maintaining those kidneys. We have seen cases where they say, well, at this point in time, it has to be transplant. However, the peculiarity of the situation or this case is such that it can't be done in Nigeria.
No.
All right. The experts or the facility is only on this continent of Africa, Egypt. Some cases they say you have to go to the United Arab Emirates, sometimes as far as India, for example. These are not things that come cheap. So this is a challenge, one of the many challenges health-wise that the world is dealing with.
Yes, and of course the amount, it takes a toll on family members. You know, sometime last year, per session going under dialysis was 12,000 naira, and then now it has skyrocketed to 80,000 naira. That's a huge chunk scale when you look at it. And looking at the economy, someone will ask, how much is someone actually earning when it comes to making ends meet, and then you have to care for a family member who has kidney issues? It's a very big problem, and that is why I always say that we have a lot to do when it comes to the healthcare system. For as much as we have this health insurance scheme, I think most of these particular ailments that are very high up when it comes to, there should be some sort of subsidized rate in order for individuals to at least try as much as they can to help a family member out who is going through this particular ailment. It will go a long way. And the health sector, we have fantastic hands. You'll be surprised that individuals that actually perform this kidney transplant, there are Nigerians amongst them. And that is why it is so sad that most of the good hands that we have are actually, quote and unquote, relocated. That's Japa. So it will be better if we had various hands, individuals who can actually perform this sort of surgery when it comes to transplant. I don't think it would be as high and as expensive as this. This is 30 million naira we're talking about. That's a huge chunk of money. That's a lot. So we have a lot to do when it comes to our healthcare center. The government needs to come into this and intervene when it comes to subsidizing. Like I mentioned, you can see sessions last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was 12,000 naira. But now it's 80. That's a lot. So we need hands, and a lot has to be done when it comes to the healthcare sector. A lot needs to be done, really.
You know, some years ago, I know this was particularly the case, 2009 all the way to like maybe 2011, where there were discussions, if you like, call them rumors and speculations about how that some Nigerians, especially young Nigerians, particularly from the southern part of the country, were going to places like Malaysia, all right, going to India to sell their kidneys. So they tell themselves, I mean, this was the whole plot, the whole story. They tell themselves, okay, so I've got 2 kidneys. I can sell one, live on one, as long as they are both healthy. We heard that story. I personally have not verified it, but it was quite rife at that time.
It was. I remember that time.
Somebody lives here, I mean, broke, for example, a couple of weeks down the line, they come back. Right, exactly, broke and desperate. You know, that sort of very evil twin. They come back and they're driving some of the flashy cars in town. They moved up to some eyebrow areas in the city. They say, well, the guy has gone to sell the kidney somewhere. But the reason that story was a bit suspicious at that point in time, didn't quite settle, was that some person said, on the average, a kidney in India was selling for an equivalent of 8.5 million Nigerian naira. So how then does somebody say they're going to sell theirs for 15 million, for 20 million in India, in Malaysia, and across the Asian continent and things like that? But that's not even the crux of the matter this morning. It is to say that while we may not be able to rule out the fact that people will, for apparent reasons, come down with kidney-specific issues, in some cases, what they call renal failure, that's failure of the kidney in the medical parlance, we're not asking ourselves, how much have we invested, all right, funding human resources into addressing this problem?
Very important.
All right? Do we have world-class equipment for all of this? Talking about global best practice. Have we been able to retain and then, in addition, attract experts in this field? Because, Juma, you and I know that in the medical field, I mean, you do health a lot, right? People specialize, all right? I've called doctors, for example, to say, to come talk about, say, some very specific issues, let's say oncology, cancer of this, cancer of that. They say, well, it's not my field, but I've got a colleague who is big on this.
Yes.
I'll refer him, I'll send you his number so you can talk to him and things like that. So how much have we as a government, as health sector, been able to keep back at home, retain those that we have trained here?
Exactly.
And then those who are abroad, bring them back here.
And don't forget those that we have actually sponsored.
Right.
There's you've sponsored Nigerians to go.
Have you kept them?
Have you kept them? But first of all, I think before we get to this particular point that we're in, the awareness when it comes to taking care of your kidney first. A lot of individuals are in this predicament because they did not take care of their kidney.
Poor choices.
Poor choices, poor health choices, poor food choices, poor drink choices, poor habits. Big. I think that's where we should start from. The kidney, our organs, they're very important. Health has a lot to do, but they'll say they're incapacitated because they cannot. Before we get to this level where we talk about the transplants, individuals who, what awareness. I'm glad today is World Kidney Day. It's a platform to create awareness and, of course, to talk about the chunk of money it entails to actually perform a kidney transplant surgery. It's a lot. But what awareness have you made in taking care of your kidney? What your do's and your don'ts? Precautionary measures. It's very important because we just feel, what's there? It's hot now. Now, it's hot now. A lot of people prefer to gulp in, thank God for Lent and thank God for the Ramadan fast, but a lot of people will rather gulp in minerals, all of these things.
Carbonated drinks.
Exactly.
As against water.
As against water. So we have a lot to do before we get to this particular process. And some will say it's hereditary, but how were you able to manage it? It's very important. All of these things are information, like, no knowledge
and again,
is
just to
wasted.
add to this, even if it's hereditary, for example, what was the access point? In which generation did we get?
Exactly.
So don't be the point at which it becomes hereditary for generations down the line.
Exactly.
Right? But again, you have a role to play. That's the point you might have just made the last 2 minutes. Right? Well, thank you for watching today, and we do hope that beyond this day being a World Kidney Day, we make it a lifestyle to make the right health choices. We are Mofwe. We're reminding you that the views of all of our guests across all of our programs are their opinions. And we're saying thank you for watching.
And of course, thank you to our guest, Isa Aliyu Shatta, for being a part of the program. We really appreciate your wealth of knowledge. And don't forget, Lassa fever is real. Please try as much as possible to keep your food covered. Make it a habit. It will go a long way in saving lives. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you all so much for being a part of the program. And have an amazing day. From Uye and I, we say bye-bye.